What is going on, Panthers Nation? Carolina Dad here, your host of the Growls One Roar podcast. Welcome back. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays as we get into New Year's and New Year's Eve. Sorry, I have tape in my hand. I'm distracting you and distracting myself. Hey, check out this new background behind me. Hopefully you see that I look a little more clear. We've upgraded the camera, at least temporarily, using Nolan's old phone. Nolan got a new phone for Christmas, so I said, hey, why don't I try resetting his phone that he has now, or won't have and use, and try that as the camera. And I'm doing that. It's taped up, though, to the computer, so I can't turn it and do the things that I want. I need to get a tripod, which will make for better viewing quality. But check this out. So we've got the fat head. Was not expecting this. We got the new pullover, Carolina Panthers. You can't see it, but my brother-in-law welded together this North Carolina Tar Heel cutout of the mascot. And hey, folks, again, I know I got Clemson fans, South Carolina fans, NC State fans, Duke fans, ECU, App, all of the schools in North Carolina, UNC Charlotte, I missed some, just UNCW, that's not football. So I don't want you to think that my college fandom bleeds over into this, because NC State has been kicking some butt on the recruiting trail. It's a whole other conversation, folks. Hey, welcome back. I am dusting off the rust as I try to figure out. It feels like it's been years since I've recorded a podcast. It hasn't, but that's just part of, like, you get into such a routine and you don't realize how much of a routine you are into just being able to come on and do this. You go away for a little bit and you're like, oh yeah, what do I need to do? How do I do this? But we're here, folks. We're here to talk about Green Bay and the Carolina Panthers, and let's go ahead and get it rolling.
Rapid reaction.
Rapid reaction. Hey, what a game. What a freaking game we saw. I was texting back with my buddy Caleb, again, my wife's best friend's husband, big Green Bay fan. My dad's a big Green Bay fan. Coming into this, it was like, can the Panthers pull this off? I tweeted out later in the week, like, I felt like there was an opportunity for the Panthers to come out and get a dub, but they didn't do it. But they put on one heck of a show and were at least 1 second away from being able to tie, maybe send it into overtime. I can't complain. Cannot complain at all, especially when I think about the duration of the game and going into halftime. Like, I think that was about the time we had our, Christmas Eve dinner when that was going on. So step away for a little bit, 20, 30 minutes, and you come back and, like, it starts to get competitive again. And you're like, hold on. The drive, Bryce really had no time at the end of that game, but still managed to work the field. I know, people may complain that he worked the middle of the field on that play. Green Bay kind of gave that to them. I'm not going to complain about it, because that was the only opportunity, but they did what they had to do. It was his best passing day yet as a Carolina Panther. And before I get too far into the weeds, because this is rapid reaction, we're going to shift into numbers don't lie so we can look at the box score.
Numbers don't lie.
All right, folks, as I said, this was Bryce Young's best day as an NFL quarterback for multiple reasons. QBR and passer rating. So his QBR was 78.1, highest of the season. Passer rating was 110.0. And we knew Baker Mayfield had the perfect passer rating last week and just went off. We also saw Bryce Young eclipse 300 passing yards in a single game. We've not seen that. I know the plays at the end of the game really helped pad that, but I don't care. He played lights out, no turnovers, 2 touchdowns. He was 22 of 36, 8.7 yards per pass. Like, this was by far his best game as an NFL quarterback. And the way that we got here, the way that Bryce was able to execute had a lot to do with getting some of these players involved that just haven't been involved or haven't been executing on, all cylinders, but they got it going. Ihmir Smith-Marsette, whether it was, jet sweeps or getting him involved in the passing game, he came alive, scored the end-around touchdown. I think it was about a 20-yard run or so. And oh my gosh, man, DJ Chark. Talk about a baller. DJ Chark, let's look at his stat line. So DJ Chark, your leading receiver, 6 receptions, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. When I was at training camp and I saw this connection and I saw the passes, I was like, this is who we're going to be getting. Like, this is the not quarterback. This is the receiver that Bryce needs that can take the top off of the defenses. And it's just been kind of a up and down year for him. A lot more downs than ups, but he's battled through. And hey, he's figuring it out at the end of the year. And you hope that maybe the Panthers decide to retain him. If I was the GM of the Panthers right now, Scott Fitter, I'm finding a way to retain Chark. I'm finding a way to retain Ihmir Smith-Marsette, because both of these guys are going to be free agents. You keep these guys around to help them to develop that chemistry that they have with Bryce. You have Adam Thielen. You have Jonathan Mingo. I know Adam's another year older. But it's like kind of a different story from what I've been saying all along as we came into this. And for me, it's like you want to keep that continuity there with this team and these sets of players. But then you start to float the idea of like, okay, so do you keep the offensive coordinator? Do you keep Thomas Brown here? I know we want an offensive-minded coach. That seems like the way that we're going. So, all this may be a moot point in the long run. But if I am the GM, whoever comes in, I am evaluating this and seeing the success that's there and saying, why not give it another year? Another year, and then you go out and you build either through the draft, or you go out and you get a T. Higgins or someone that can be a true number one paired with everything else that is on this roster. And you might have found something. Bryce was only sacked twice. 2 times, folks. It was a really big day for the offensive line. We saw Bryce scramble a little bit. As we go into this, let's talk about rushing. Not a big day for Chuba. 16 carries, 43 yards, but he did have 1 rushing touchdown. Ihmir Smith-Marsette, 2 carries for 33 yards, 16.5 average, and the 1 touchdown. And then Bryce had 4 scrambles, 4 for 17. Man, tough day for Miles Sanders. 3 carries for 3 yards. 3 carries for 3 yards. I know I say it. I don't know what the solution is for him in the offseason, how you can convince someone else to take him. Because what we've seen is it hasn't worked out. And I know he hasn't said he wants out, but it's hard for me to imagine how you keep him around. Talked about DJ Chark's stat. Adam Thielen, another quiet big day, 6 receptions for 94 yards, 15.7 yards per catch. Tommy Tremble coming alive as well. Another guy that I talked about in the preseason. Like, I wanted Tommy to come alive and be the tight end, the number 1 tight end, the pass catching tight end. And we see it for just a little bit. So today, or on Sunday, 4 catches, 59 yards. What a day. Steven Sullivan, 3 catches for 21 yards. I mean, dispersing the ball around. Ihmir only had 1 for 18. Mingo, 1 for 9. Chuba and Miles both had 1 as well. There were 2 fumbles. We've recovered both of them. So again, clean day for turnovers for both teams. So did not lose the ball, or have an interception. Couldn't have asked for a better day. Frankie Louvu leading the defense as we talk about this, and Derek Brown. 10 total tackles for Louvu, 9 for Derek Brown. Louvu had 1 sack. Again, when you talk about the pieces of this team that are going to be around next year, or that I want around next year, I start with Louvu, Brown, Bell, and Brian Burns. And I know this is more of the, breakdown of the segment, and numbers don't lie, and I'm kind of just mixing everything in just because I'm getting back into this. But when I kind of look at this, driving home today, listen to a lot of sports radio, and one of the things that comes up was how much money is spent on offense versus defense. And I have not had the ability to sit down and even touch this, looking at sports rack or track, whatever it is, and then over the cap, or any of those that track cap spending for NFL teams. But there was a lot of talk about, you don't spend your money on defense. Like, you don't spend your money on defensive players. You spend it on offense and on the offensive side of the ball, because that's the future. And if you think about the 49ers, and man, so I take a minute to pause, our man Nolan congrats to him, one, for his Baltimore Ravens, demolishing them on national TV, Monday Night Football, Christmas Day. Couldn't have been a bigger game or bigger win for that team. I'll say, though, in the first quarter, you would have thought that they had lost the game. I'm like, dude, still a lot of ball to play. But when you think about the weapons and the money that's spent on the 49ers offense with Brock Purdy, I mean, his rookie contract is night and day from Bryce Young, because you're talking about the first overall pick, 36 whatever million dollars, versus the last pick in the draft overall, 7th rounder with what, $900,000. Having Christian McCaffrey go out and buy the offensive team's Christmas gifts because Purdy can't afford it, and like, good for McCaffrey. That's the other thing, man. And I know it's kind of, side tangents, and I feel like every Panthers fan has felt that. To me, when you watch McCaffrey play for the 49ers, and I haven't watched him a lot because I primarily watch the Panthers, and then, things come up. I'm lucky to get in a second game, usually a Thursday night game or possibly Sunday night, Monday night, just depends on the schedule. I don't get to catch many other games, time spent wisely, but I finally got to, sit down and see him outside of highlights, and you just are like, how did the Panthers and Scott Fitter think this was a good decision to get rid of him? And we talk about DJ Moore, won't harp on that. But that's your numbers game. Now, big day for Raheem Blackshear, 5 returns. He averaged about 22.8 yards per return. Our man, Eddie Pinheiro, tough day. He had a tough day. He was 1 for 1 on field goals, but missed the 2 extra points. That was kind of critical. Not kind of. It was critical in the long run. And, I won't say it cost us because we ended up losing by 3. And that, that would have been 2 extra points that we get on the board. But I know you're kind of playing catch up earlier on in the game because of those misses. So just how it kind of came there. And, for anyone that wants to harp on Eddie's, if you go out and look at the stats, I think he's like 18th in the league. Justin Tucker, who many would consider one of the best kickers in the NFL, if not the best, has a worse field goal percentage than Eddie Pinheiro does this year. I think he's missed like 4 50-plus yard attempts this year. So if you're on the bash Eddie train, I don't want you to worry about bashing Eddie. And when you really break it down, so if I think it was, when you look at the number of kickers that have attempted the same number of kicks as Eddie Pinheiro, which is around 29 or above, he comes in like 8 or 9 on the list out of those kickers. So like, he's okay, folks. He's okay. And I know people are like, you need to upgrade his position. Like, who are you going to get? Every team is dying for a kicker. And then, missed extra points are missed extra points. I'm not going to, say that's nothing. But at the same time, like, it's going to be okay. The last thing we need to do is pull a rule and Fitter and draft, a long snapper in the 6th. I can't get over that. Long snapper in the 6th round. Our boy, Johnny Hecker, good as always. 3 punts, 151 yards, 50.3 average. 1 inside of the 20. All right. Time to break it down.
Carolina Dad Breakdown.
Breaking this game down, I kind of highlighted it. 7-3 after 1, 16-7 as far as points scored, I should say, in the second quarter. Carolina scores 6 in the third, and then 14-10 in the fourth quarter. Ends up being 33-30 final. But what we saw in here was a game in which the Panthers looked like a football team. One, they have not scored 30 points the entire season. That was their highest points total of the season. It was the most points, I believe, since, I have to go back, the Seahawks game, if I have that correctly. So a lot of offensive production. And I think we got to see some big plays, some plays where Bryce has time to throw the ball. He's getting it to receivers that have the ability to catch and maybe not get a ton of yards, but more than what we have seen to date. And as a fan, you have to take that. I mean, I think he was even on the FedEx Aaron Ground Player of the Week nomination. I don't think he got, who was it? Joe Flacco, maybe Matt Stafford. I think he was above Matt Stafford, but I think Joe Flacco is going to get it because that dude's balling out to, 38 years old. Throwing a lot of interceptions, but hey, they keep winning football. I mean, can't really knock that. But it was a successful day for the offense. The team itself outgained Green Bay. And this was a game where when Green Bay went up, and, like I said, we go and eat lunch, I'm thinking like, okay, this is going to get out of hand pretty quickly. I don't think the Panthers are going to be able to stay in this game. Like, there's no way this team is. And we see them fighting back, remaining calm, executing the way that they're supposed to execute, and being competitive. And I know, you can talk about the NFL and are there moral victories? I think that's an argument that everyone would have. I'm sure there's some old school folks that'll tell you there's no moral victory in anything. But I do believe at least there's a tiny sliver of a victory, because if you look back at this in the fourth quarter, Panthers were down 30-16 with, really that was right at the beginning of the fourth quarter. So they're down 30-16. Like, are we going to be able to make a comeback and get in this thing? We go out, end up scoring a touchdown. Eddie Pinheiro misses the extra point, and it's 30-22 with 7 minutes left in the game. 30-22, and you're like, okay, well, we're going to need a defensive stop, and we're going to need to get the ball, and we're going to need to drive. And that's exactly what they did. I mean, if you look at their scoring drives, the one drive in the third quarter was 14 plays, 72 yards, took 8 minutes off the clock. Love to see touchdowns. Love to, like, that's pure execution. Touchdown in the second quarter, 8 plays, 77 yards, 4.5 minutes off the clock. In the fourth quarter, 9 plays, 60 yards, 4 minutes and 24 seconds. So they score that, 7 minutes left, get the ball back, takes a minute and 42 seconds. They go down and tie it. So 5 plays, 70 yards, 4 minutes left in the game. And it is 30-30 because we convert the 2-point conversion. What a play by Raheem Blackshear on that run, being able to convert that. And it was rocking, man. I mean, I know you had a lot of cheeseheads in the crowd and a lot of cheeseheads there, but it was a big day, very big day, and a big crowd. And you take that. It's 30-30 with 4 minutes left in the game. We give Green Bay the ball. And hey, that replay, and in the moment when I watched it, I wasn't like super like concerned. When you go back and watch that replay and watch it and watch it and watch it, you question how that was ruled a catch. And I know it was addressed in the official write-up and summary that came out of this from the NFL when, asking to respond, that it was reviewed and they did confirm it. But like, how did they not see the angle, or they thought that the pass was already completed when the ball is coming down and on the ground? And they said they felt that his hand was underneath it. I don't know. I'm not going to harp on it. Like, if we were fighting for a playoff spot or more competitive, I'd be a little more ticked off. But you do question that. Sucks as a fan, but the way I look at it, you're not going to get every single call, and they're not going to be perfect, even with everything that's in place. The NFL is not a perfect system with officiating and things like that. Yeah, you can get pissed. Like, I get pissed off all the time watching this, but it's nothing I can do, and I'm not going to pull a Pat Mahomes and come out here and complain and yell and fuss on a podcast about this, and we should have got this, and the refs ripped us off. The line that I talk about being a fan and or being someone that kind of semi-reports on the team and gives input, it's weird being in this position, because there's a lot of times I have to check myself now, because I have a lot of raw emotion. And I'm watching a game, I want to tweet out and get mad about whatever's happening. But then I take a step back and I'm like, okay, it's not that big, or I'll have to see it from this angle. And because I seeing the folks that I follow and how they react and tweet and things like that, I'm like, the funniest thing happens when I tweet something and I'm ticked off in the middle of a game, and then I come back like 5 hours later and it's got like 1,000, not 1,000, that's a lot, 550 whatever likes or retweets, and I'm like, wait a second, that I was mad, but that's just stupid. But people are still liking and tweeting and all that, and I'm like, oh, okay. Anyways, you have that miss, but then we they connect on the field goal. It's 33-30, 19 seconds left. And man, we were 1 second away. And I know fans are also upset about the end of the game with Bryce actually, did he get the playoff? I mean, you watch the replay or read the write-up on it, and it says that, when the ball was snapped, that it was at zeros by the time the ball hit the ground. And I'm like, when you watch it in real time, I believe that. So it's not like I'm going to sit here and fuss about that either. It's just another tough day in a Panthers fan, and that's the way it's been this whole season. If it could or would go wrong, it's going to go wrong for us. All right, folks, time for me to get into my 2 growls and 1 roar, and we're going to close this out.
2 growls and 1 roar.
All right, this week, again, if you're just new to the show, I give out 2 growls, which are kind of like the mini awards for the week, and a roar for, I guess, what we would call most outstanding MVP, whatever we want it to be. This week, I'm going to give my first growl. I'm going to go with offense this week, or at least in this first selection, and give it to Ihmir Smith-Marsette. Big breakout game for him. I think there's a lot of other folks that I could put in that category, whether it's a Tommy Tremble. I know Brown, I've given it to him a few times, but I am going to give it to Ihmir Smith-Marsette. What a breakout game. What a breakout week for him. And he continues to get more touches, and you just scratch your head, like, where was he? Why did Frank not have this guy in the system? He wants to be here. He wants to be here and grow with Bryce. He's only 3 years in the league. I think he is a piece that we have to have moving forward with this team, and I would love to see him continue to grow and develop. My second one, and this is tough because, I feel like in different situations I could give it to this guy over this guy. And my second growl, I'm going to do this just because I'm going to give it to Bryce Young. So Bryce Young gets the growl for me. We got, I went through the stats and numbers. What a breakout week. What a span of the past 2 weeks. I believe I saw someone posting that over the past 2 weeks he's got top 5 QBR. And among all NFL quarterbacks, we are starting to see the development that we thought we would get, and it's coming together. You hope that none of this is wasted again with the new staff or whoever comes in, but I do like what I've seen out of him. Talked about the numbers, talked about the QBR, talked about the passer rating, and just continuing to battle back and just not quit. We are seeing the rise of the future of this franchise, and hats off to him. That leaves your roar. Your roar this week is going to go to DJ Chark. 6 receptions, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. Breakout game for him. And I know it's such a relief for him to get in the end zone, to score, to have this production that we have been dying for, and just to get that off and give us a little bit of hope. I want to see this continue over the next 2 games as we finish this season. But yeah, great job, y'all. And again, next year, or hope maybe next week, I'll try to get your fan input for those awards.
Closing it out.
All right, folks, closing it out. Closing out this week's episode, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars coming up, and I'll be previewing them. I guess I'll record that, who knows, in a few days, maybe tomorrow. Trevor Lawrence potentially out of that game with a sprained AC right now, waiting to hear the update. I guess it's going to be day by day, last-minute decision. I did see that they signed, speaking of the Jaguars, Matt Barkley off the Giants practice squad over to them, their active roster. Something to watch. We're closing it out. As a Panthers fan, there has not been a lot to cheer about this year. We've got 2 wins, on the verge of a third. But here we are, man. 2 games to go, and we are at the bottom of all bottoms. And at times, it can be very difficult to sit here and even think about possibly having success in this organization. But as the man of optimism for this team and the future of this franchise, there's a lot of it that's going to be coming. And my job over these next few weeks and months is to build that up. Now, it's not going to be the same as this past offseason where I'm building up, saying that we're going to win 9-10 games. but it's going to be baby steps in the right direction of getting this team to be competitive. You look across at the Detroit Lions, a team that has never won the NFC North, a team that has never won or hasn't won their division in 30 years, almost the entire time that I've been alive. And they pulled it off. And they pulled it off with Dan Campbell at the helm. Dan Campbell, who was a part of the 04 team. The team, not 04, but 04 did not win a game. 04. And look at the success that he's had. The Panthers, whether it's a Ben Johnson, whether it's whoever, I'm not going to list off a ton of names, whoever that is, we just got to take a deep breath and realize it's going to take some time, but we are on the path. Have patience, have patience, have patience. And as always, folks, keep pounding.